welcome to another episode of the Polkaros Podcast, where I speak with fellow craftspeople, creators, designers, and artists about their works and how they navigate the modern world. Today, I'm very happy to have my special guest, Cheryl, from Lulo Paper Studio. Welcome,
Hi,
Cheryl, to our
thank
podcast.
you for having me.
Yes. Cheryl, would you like to share with us what you do and some things about your work?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Cheryl and I am a paper artist. I run a creative studio called Lulo Paper Studio. Yeah, so as my title suggests, I work mainly with paper. I work with paper sculpture, sometimes 2D paper illustrations, and I do mainly a lot of commercial work that's in the advertising or marketing realm.
Wow. So how did you start this, your journey with paper, and what was your background like before you started?
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say like my background is kind of all over the place. Yeah. So I've always been interested in design and art. Yeah. So when I was in poly, I actually studied product design. And then after that, I graduated and I moved on to study photography. Yeah. So I graduated with a degree in photography from NTU. Yeah, so I did photography for 4 years. Yeah, so I would say throughout the journey there, I realized that, I actually was very interested in building sets. Yeah, so for, I would say, the last few years in university, I was building a lot of sets in school and actually photographing my art. Yeah, so I think since a very young age, I've often been very interested in building with, my two hands. Yeah, so I think that's something that has always stuck with me ever since, I was a kid. Yeah, and how I kind of, fell into being a paper artist, I often say it's kind of like happenstance. I was just really there at the right place at the right time in that sense. Yeah. After I graduated from university, I was still dabbling with paper on and off, really just creating personal work, just kind of pushing myself to see, where I can take this medium. Because I guess with paper, it really allows me to build whatever I have in mind. At the same time, it's a medium that's really versatile and affordable. Yeah. So throughout the period that I was really experimenting and playing with paper, I was also sharing my work on social media platforms like Instagram. Yeah. And I guess it was really through Instagram that I got my first few jobs as, a sort of like, a paper artist. I mean, of course, at that time, I was just, playing around, with paper. Yeah, I didn't really envision myself as a paper artist.
So when you said you were interested in building sets, so what kind of sets were you working on prior to, moving to paper?
So if you have seen how people have built dioramas, it's kind of similar. So back then, I was using a lot of recycled materials, leftover materials that you can find like cardboard, using things like paper, cement, sponges, whatever you have to create my sets. Yeah, so I would sew things that's needed. Like, let's say if I were to create a set that's based around like a bedroom setting, I would literally just build like everything from scratch. The bed, the mattress is probably from like a kitchen sponge. Yeah.
So even though you were majoring in photography, your subject was like built by yourself, kind of like you were building the set to photograph. So that there was this interest of like making like a scene was there from the start, just that your medium became more focused on paper, like kind of moved on to
it slowly
paper.
evolved, I would say.
That's very
I think when I was still in university, I did, it did cross my mind that I would really hope to be, diorama artist. Yeah, because I guess that's my interest, really building miniature worlds. Yeah, having that, little fantasy world where I can just, create to my heart's content.
Like the world that you want, right? Yeah. That's so interesting that's how it started. And like, did you have like a particular skill that you were working on in the beginning? Like a fixed skill like this miniature?
So I've actually worked on different scales from really small to big. So I would say like most of my artwork when I was still in university were more on the bigger scale. So if you look at the size of like a Barbie doll, so that was kind of the scale that I was working with. So imagine like the room setting, it has to be in scale with the size of a Barbie doll. Yeah, so that was kind of the scale I was working with then.
That's very interesting. Did you kind of consciously like pick that scale so that, you know, it can complement like other dolls and other existing objects as well?
So yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I did choose that scale because at that point in time, I did have a variety of dolls that were of that scale. Yeah, so, and those dolls were very realistic looking. I mean, compared to if you look at the Barbie doll, it doesn't look that realistic. In the art, I wouldn't say the art market, but I don't know what market this is where people actually own these type of dolls. Yeah, they actually look very realistic. Yeah, so I was actually working with these types of, you know, toys to, you know, put into my sets.
I see. But that's a very clever way of starting, because then there's a place already for your miniatures to go into like that world, and like people can collect and maybe like use them to build a whole like world in their home. Yeah, I think that's very nice. And like during COVID lockdown, we did speak briefly during our coffee talk segment, and you shared with us like some of your process. But I thought I was so intrigued by how you use quite a bit of technology as well in your work, even though it's paper craft, right? A lot of hand work, like, you know, that you need to use your hands, but there's also a lot of computer and calculation, I guess, to make sure that they look to scale and everything. So can you share with us again your process of making your works?
Yeah, sure. So when I actually first started dabbling in paper art, I was actually clueless about the fact that, you know, there were actually machines, you know, available in the market where you can use it to cut paper. Yeah. So I was still doing everything in a very primitive kind of way, where, you know, I was using things like the protractor, the ruler to measure out angles, geometric shapes, and then, you know, really toying with these angles to get the kind of structure that I want. Yeah, so I would say during that whole process, it was also the point where I was getting client work, right? And it kind of struck me that, you know, this is a very inefficient way to work. You know, I did discuss with a few friends in the art industry, you know, if, you know, I should, you know, continue, you know, working in this way, or maybe learn like, you know, 3D application software to assist me. And the funny thing is, a lot of people were like, you know, oh, you don't have to do that. You know, I'm very sure, you know, your clients would understand. Yeah. So I would say it was kind of like a business decision to look at the tools or the software applications available out in the market to help me be more efficient. Yeah, because I was getting jobs, you know, right, left, and center, and I was working till, you know, really late into the night. You know, I was very exhausted. Yeah, so I think it was at that point that I decided that, you know, it is really time for me to, you know, really see this as a business. Yeah, I can't be, you know, working, you know, in the kind of way that I'm working. Yeah.
So how did you move from making everything by hand to what was the first few tools that you adopted that really helped you?
So the first tool that I actually had was a silhouette cameo cutter. So it's very similar to the Cricut cutter that most, I think, scrapbookers might use, that's available in the Singapore market. Yeah, so it's basically a machine that looks like a printer, and it has a very tiny blade that helps you to cut the shapes that you have drawn out. Yeah, so that was the first machine that I acquired. And at that time, I was still drawing out my shapes on Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, after that, I moved on to using 3D application software that could help me draw out the shapes that I want, or whatever specific shape or design that I want specifically. So whatever I had in mind, my vision, I'll be able to turn it out through that 3D software. Yeah.
So the 3D software, do you have to learn, or was it quite intuitive?
Yeah, so basically I taught myself from scratch to learn like all these tools. Yeah.
And is that 3D software, like, do you have a name?
Oh yeah, so it's called SketchUp.
SketchUp.
Yeah,
so you would recommend it?
Yeah, I guess I would. Yeah.
Is it similar to, would you say that from someone who can use Adobe, you know, Illustrator to pick up something like that would be quite intuitive, like quite easy to pick up?
I guess.
Or Was
Not
the learning
really.
curve
I
quite?
mean, there
is
was
quite-
a learning curve for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
watching a lot of YouTube videos, Googling for
Wow.
tutorials. Yeah. Yeah. So, I
But-
mean, there's a lot of 3D softwares out
Mm,
there. Yeah.
yes.
Like, I guess like 4D Cinema, Rhino. Yeah. So, I really think it's up to you.
Up to you.
Yeah.
But do you feel like learning this software really helped to, like, it's a game changer for your
Yeah,
for your business?
definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I think right now, my vision of what I want, I'm able to get it across like crystal clear.
Wow.
While in the past, I had like a vision for my sketches, but there was still a lot of trial and error, especially with things that were more organically shaped. Yeah, it's a lot harder to kind of map out those shapes. It's not impossible, but it's time consuming.
And when now that you have different clients with this, 3D software, do you actually like get to propose ideas beforehand, or is it solely used for making the actual work? Like, do you use it as a presentation tool as well?
No. So when I present like ideas or concepts, it's still sketch-based.
Sketch-based.
Yeah. So I only start, I guess, working on the sculptures only after we have ironed out and finalized the concepts. Yeah.
Wow, that's so exciting. Your journey is a very different approach, I feel. So you started off posting some of your works online, and then you got inquiries. That's how it started. And your inquiries are not so much because we speak to a lot of others craft people, and usually it's like, oh, can you do a workshop, or can you make this thing for me? But how was your first inquiries like? Was it more like a collaboration with a brand, or
Yeah, so the first few inquiries were all brand related. Yeah, so I guess brands that you hear around, often enough. Yeah, so I did have inquiries on workshops as well. Yeah, so that was definitely a path that, I did go down just to kind of, see how it's like.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about your craft, like being able to create almost anything, like a miniature world or like any objects, I think that is a very unique part that allows collaboration with different brands, right? Because they want to see their products or their works, their brand in your world as well.
Yeah.
So that is a very unique point. I feel that it's like kind of sets your brand apart, is that the very distinctive look and how it's collaborative, because then you can propose ideas and create the world. So how is like, can you share with us some of the process for like, if you were to start, like someone approach you, like how do you approach usually like a project, or like start proposing ideas and stuff?
Yeah, so most of the time when clients come to me, they already have quite a specific concept in mind, or if not, they do know that, we want to kind of promote this product. Yeah, so we need this product to be in your set. Yeah, so most of the time what will happen is, based on their concept, I will come up with one or two sketches to kind of help them visualize how the entire set would look like with their product in it. Yeah, so for me, my first phases when working with a client is always, I need to know that, they have strong concept at least in mind. And then from there, we can iron out what I can do or what I can't do. Yeah, and then I'll proceed to sketch out one or two ideas in which their products can, kind of live in this world. Yeah. And then once we have finalized the sketches, I'll get down to building the sculptures. I'll get down to, deciding the colors. Yeah, looking at my color swatches. Yeah, if the client has a particular palette they want to follow, sometimes I'll send over the physical paper swatches over to them so they can understand what the colors look like in real life. If there's anything that they don't like about it, like the texture of the paper, for example.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, then from there, most of the time, I would also document my work. So I'll photograph my work in progress, because my medium is very different from like a digital medium, right? So with a digital medium, let's say you're drawing an illustration, it's easy to kind of give updates a bit faster. But for me, my updates have to come through photos. Yeah. So because this medium that, they are working with is also unfamiliar to them. So in order not to kind of leave them hanging and like nervous, like, how is the final outcome going to look like? Yeah, I feel that it really eases their mind when I send them like work in progress photos like every week or every fortnight. Yeah. So from there, it allows them to kind of see the work being built up slowly. so that when the final artwork is created, they have already like a strong sensing of like how it's going to come together.
Wow, that's very, very professional of you to like update them and so that they feel at ease. Could you share with us like how long is your lead time? Like just roughly like, okay, you brought some lovely books with us to show us today and it's very nice. We will do a close-up for those who are watching the video. You'll be able to see them. How long would something like that take? For example, this very cute ice cream.
Okay, so I think I need to say this because I don't want clients to think that, this is the exact timeline because usually I'm working on multiple projects.
Yes.
So that is why my timeline is also, when I, let them know it's a long timeline, it's because like I'm juggling a lot of things. For example, the
realistic timeline for yourself, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So this one that you see here, this ice cream cut.
Oh yeah.
I would say from start to finish, it took about a week. Yeah.
But it's not a realistic timeline for sure. I mean, a week is like, but start to finish is a week. Wow, that is like full time, even with the drawing.
Oh yeah, even with the drawing part, choosing the colors.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah. But this is like a week without
doing anything else.
Yeah,
but it's wow. It looks like a lot of work. And I can't believe this, but the wheels actually move.
Yeah.
So for those who are able to see the video, wow. So you're able to, so does your 3D printer, not 3D printer, 3D software allow you to even come up with the internal parts and all, or how do you?
So basically, the 3D software is not like a AI program. You basically have to draw everything out yourself. Meaning, if you want a cylinder, you got to draw the cylinder out yourself. So,
like, if this wheel, you probably like figure out the internal mechanism on your own.
Engineering is still my brain.
Oh, that's really, really impressive. Yeah. Engineering is still your brain. Yeah, so your brain is really pretty amazing. I think, do you think your product design background did kind of help a little with this kind of
actually no.
Oh.
Sorry to my ex-polytechnic.
That's so cute. Growing up, do you think you are like very inspired? Do you think you were very inspired by like the toys that you were exposed with to always want that miniature world? Was it anything from childhood that you can remember?
Yeah, I think I would say I think my childhood plays a very big part in who I am today as an artist. Yeah, I would say as a child, my interests have not really changed. I'm an older version of my child self, but I still feel like some parts of my childhood are still, quite, as in it reflects quite strongly in my work, I would say. I still like doll houses. I still like miniatures. I still get excited when I see, miniatures, doll houses. So I would say, that world that I used to, play in as a kid, I'm still kind of in that world, just an older version of myself.
Oh, that's so awesome that you can still kind of like use that thing that you love and then make a living out of it. Like, it's fun to not have to grow up. But wow, there's like some secret compartments here as well. So, wow, okay. So I think talking about like the childlike, aesthetics as well is quite interesting here because your colors are also very distinctive. Like, how do you choose your colors and like you were talking about the paper swatches that you have to send to your clients. I was thinking, would it be difficult to, get all the colors that you want, like in Singapore, or like how do you source for your materials?
Yeah, I would say color is not something that, it's not like a Pantone shade where you can specifically choose what color you want. But I would say that with the colors itself, I'm really quite drawn to specific colors. Yeah. So I do have a very wide range of colors that I like to use. And oftentimes, I do like to kind of, explore, of course, new color ranges. But at the same time, I already have like kind of like set way in which, I like to pick my colors. I still like vibrant colors, bright colors. Colors that are very cheerful, very sunny. So I do realize I tend to avoid colors that are more muted or like earthy kind of tones.
Yes. Yeah. So like from one look, usually I could identify your work like quite easily because of the choice of colors. There's like pink, turquoise, and recently I just walked past Tiong Bahru Plaza and I saw one of your installations and I immediately noticed it. So I think that was the Go Viral.
Yeah, the Going Viral exhibition.
Yeah.
The Singapore Science Centre.
Wow, that was really quite a big installation, I would say, because they created like a plastic dome even
to kind of display the work.
Yeah, it looks a very nice way of showcasing the works. And you were saying that it's traveling exhibition?
Yeah, so I have an exhibition that's ongoing and traveling around Singapore. It's called Going Viral and it's done together with the Singapore Science Centre. Yeah, so the works that are on display, that are mine, it's kind of meant to complement what the Science Centre wants to put out. Yeah, so for Science Centres, and they want to talk about viruses, they want to talk about, how viruses spread. Yeah, but at the same time, for this particular exhibition, they also want to have a more personal tone to it, where it's not just like science-based exhibition. Yeah, so on my aspect, I kind of come in with works that are more personal, that talk about, our experiences when we went through COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are like 4 different dioramas and scenes that you see throughout the exhibition. Yeah, so it's talking about like how the community comes together to make a handmade mask. It talks about, how we, using digital technology to connect with our loved ones. Yeah, so it's a lot of, reflective work.
Yes. Yes, and I remember some of your works also reminded me of when we first met, right? Like on IG. So you had like the spray, that work was kind of like reminded me of you had that whole series of, so those were the days, right? The whole COVID time. Yeah, but yeah, very good that like it was not just a one-off, like you put in those effort and work and then it kind of continued, like, and then like now you can collaborate with Science Centre. Yeah, a second life, and you can use it to spread the word, to educate. So it's a very useful tool, I guess, for that. Oh, that's very interesting. And also, I remember your spray. I don't know, it was animated, so it could move, but could it actually?
A mechanical device made from paper. As in, there was a paper spring that I made for the spray bottle so that it could move.
Yes, that's another fascinating part. So the internal mechanism, you also try to make it work, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's fascinating. And do you usually just stick to paper? Like you make sure that it's just paper? So
I try
paper spring.
Yeah, so it's a paper spring. Yeah.
That's very amazing.
Yeah. So it's not a metal spring.
Yeah. And it works.
It works.
Wow, I'm sure that is like very fascinating but it was showcased within the case, so you can't really try. But I'm sure, would you say that that's something you want to keep doing, like things that can actually be interacted with and move, like in the future, like more of that kind
Definitely, yeah. I think there are a lot of things that I really, really want to explore, which I feel, at this stage, I've yet to really like tap into it. Yeah, I feel like ever since, I started Lulo Paper Studio, I've really just been like on survival mode.
Really?
In a sense. As in like, in a sense where, it's more of, kind of putting like client work first.
Oh, yes.
And my own personal work, like, later.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I really hope to be able to explore more of what I wish to.
Okay, yeah, because I guess like you were saying survival mode, but then like when we look at your work and your Instagram and the kind of projects you're doing, it doesn't feel that way, that you're like trying, like, survival mode kind of way. It seems like everything is handled very well. I mean, of course you're handling them very well, but it seems like it's growing at a very healthy pace, and your works are like, you're growing like to try new things, right? Like for example, the Singapore Heritage Festival where you got to blow up the work. I mean, that's also like you get to do clients' work, but at the same time, I guess, explore new things. Like, so how was that from miniature going big? Was it?
I would say the process wasn't very different from how I usually work with my clients. Yeah, because for this particular project, there were a lot of people on board. Yeah,
Okay.
so there were architects on board.
Mm.
There were, model fabricators on board.
Wow.
Yeah, so this particular project, I did not have to actually build
Mhm.
paper sculptures with my own two hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really more like a creative person, like a
Mhm.
creator. Yeah, so, and then someone else,
Mm.
comes in to translate, my creations into a bigger scale, installation.
But how did you, because it's so similar, like there were was it swans? Like,
Yeah.
so it looks like your paper, right? Like cut out.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking, how do you provide just
Yeah,
the
so I provided
artwork?
the artwork to the
And
model
it looks exactly
fabricators.
like
Yeah,
your work.
yeah.
So
So
it's
I
quite
provided the exact artworks
okay.
to the
Like the
fabricators.
SketchUp,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
just managed to produce it.
Yeah, so they managed to cut everything by with wood, and then they painted it to the colors
color
that we
that
chose
you-
as well.
But how about the scale? I mean, like suddenly you have to do a life size. So how do you decide on, okay, this swan is going to be this size? Just
Yeah,
curious.
so that's where like the architects come in. Yeah,
there were architects
yeah.
to
So of course the
advise.
architects are there to make sure like the buildings don't
Yeah,
collapse.
exactly,
I mean, I'm not
right?
an architect, right? Yeah. So the architects were there to
Were there
like
to
handle
help all
all
this-
these
That's
aspects.
awesome.
Yeah.
And how is this exhibition there for a long time, or was it only during the festival?
It's only during the festival. Ended at the end of June. Yeah.
Okay.
So for like about a month and a half,
Mhm.
it was on the lawn at the National Museum of Singapore.
Wow, that's amazing opportunity, isn't it? I mean, to see your work from making miniatures and then now you have a life-size
Yeah.
installation. You should be very
It
very
feels a bit
happy and proud.
surreal.
Yeah, it's a very big accomplishment, I would say, for a lot of artists. Yeah, very nice. So moving forward, do you have any collaboration or any other projects you would hope to do, like from now on?
I actually feel that, I might want to take a small step back from commercial work. Yeah,
Really?
in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, it's
Interesting.
something that has been on my mind.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the decision is really like for me to kind of relook at my strengths, kind of re-strategize and rethink like how I want this business to be.
Mm.
Yeah, because I guess when I first started, I was really just like thrown into it. Yeah, I didn't really give much thought as to what my purpose or my mission is with this. It was really like, I get to be artist, I get to create things. Yeah, but I think a lot has changed over like the 4-5 years that I've been doing this. Yeah, and I think there are a lot of projects that, I want to do. And sometimes you can't just like wait for people to give you these projects, right? You have to kind of like create it on your own. And I really have not been able to spend, like a good amount of time, on the projects that I have in mind. Yeah. And even though throughout the years I've been trying to like juggle, I've been trying to juggle like creating my own personal work on top of like, commercial work.
Yes.
I think it's still quite a struggle to do it. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, do you have like something, okay, you have to think about like something that is a personal work that you have always wanted to do and not have a chance to, like if you had a chance now, immediately you'll be doing that one thing. Is there something like that?
I think there are a lot. Yeah. I mean, I would love to like create a very, huge exhibition based on like a stationery world, stationery town. Yeah.
Gosh, that would be so
Crayon,
exciting.
pencil cars.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know what you
Hotels made
mean.
of pencils. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still
love
want people
that.
to
Hotels made of pencils.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things I have in mind. I mean, I
Yes,
like
I love to
like
hear your
reading. I
ideas.
like reading like mystery thriller novels. So I've always also wanted to create like a mystery puzzle exhibition where people can come and interact with like the paperworks and maybe solve a mystery: who murdered who with what weapon. Yeah.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
And would you think would be like still this aesthetic, like your book or your paper vibe, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the fun part about like being able to just dream about your own ideas rather than, I know what you mean. Like when you do corporate works, you're waiting for kind of like other people's idea, you're assisting them, but actually you have so many good ideas. Like the stationery world sounds so exciting. I feel like it's good to put it out there because maybe, you can still find a collaborator who wants to
who wants to work with me?
work with you to execute that big exhibition of a stationery wall.
That would be great.
So it's a stationery wall with like pencil.
I mean,
hotel,
anything stationery related, I guess.
but they are all like a building.
Yeah, with windows, or like if you have the scotch tape as the slide. I mean, it's really,
That's awesome.
yeah, up to me to decide how it
Yes,
goes.
I can already envision this as like a kids finale kind of thing, like in the museum, right? That would be so fun. I would love to be involved if somehow you have a corner for Polkaros in this paper world. That's so nice. Yeah, it's always nice to. So, would you say like to be able to like let the different audience interact with your work? That's also part of the joy, like the aim.
Yeah, I think interaction with the work is something that I would hope to explore, because right now a lot of my works are behind, displays. Yeah, but of course I haven't really fully thought of how people can actually interact with the work. Yeah. But I do like working like more like on the ground, meaning like I'm not that keen on like, being in a gallery, things like that. Yeah, I like seeing the community, being involved in my process, in my work. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, there's actually a lot of potential, I feel like, for paper craft, right? Like, I mean, if we're talking about workshop, then it can be very structured because people want to like bring home like something that looks polished. But if it's more like a biennale, let's say, just to interact with people, and I think you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it, right? So I mean, for biennales and like things in the museum, sometimes it can be just an opportunity for even kids or people who don't get to, like different people who don't get to interact with this craft, to play with your medium and like create something interact, like I guess play with.
Yeah, I guess
people,
like you're right. I guess the word is really
play, right? Yes. And I think that's the thing about workshops and corporate kind of engagement, is that it kind of narrows us down to, okay, we need a finished product. We need like the experience to be a certain kind of like way.
Yeah, because in a sense, you do want the people that participate in your workshops to walk away with something finished.
Yes.
Yeah, you want them to feel like they have learned something and accomplished something. Yeah, so if you were to have a workshop that's really just all about play, sometimes it's a bit hard to like pull the audience in.
I wonder if it's like it's just a shift of mindset, because ultimately I think the experience is also going to be very valuable, right? To be able to play without being so serious about like bring home that final object. Yeah, but I
think sometimes it's an educational / structural thing that you grow up with, especially in Singapore. I would say like, there's still a lot of structure even when it comes to art in Singapore. So that kind of, is instilled in you at a young age. And I think that's why as adults, sometimes it's hard to kind of get them to switch that mindset that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to play. You don't actually have to have a finished, polished artwork.
Yes. Yeah, that mindset of like, oh, like 3 hours later, I need to have something. Yeah. So I'm also hoping that like the idea of workshops will kind of evolve and people will be more open to enjoying the fun part of clay making or any of the craft.
I definitely agree with you on this point. Because sometimes when I think about my workshops, I think the reason why I'm not consistently having them is also because I think the problem is I don't really want you to just walk away with a finished product, but yet at the same time I don't really know like how I can introduce workshops where you can actually learn to make something on your own without me.
I think like, I mean, I just had this vision while we were talking that like your workshop, if we could learn how to make like something that moves, for example, but then like the look of that vehicle is up to the participant to kind of like, be imaginative or just play with the simple folding. But like at the end of the day, it's all like maybe a little vehicle. I don't know, like has a basic structure. That would be quite fun to learn how to make.
That's a good idea.
And that's paper spring thing. I feel like there's a lot of potential, like to create like movable
objects.
I love it. Wow, there's a lot of like So because it's inspired by toy childhood miniature, I think that toy element, that playful element can it's like the possibilities are endless for you to expand on that. Wow, it's so fun. So did you create this ice cream cart for a particular project, or was it just your personal?
This is just a personal like passion project. Yeah, so I would say throughout the years, I have always been I've always found that it's very important to have your own passion projects, because I realized that a lot of my client work actually comes from these passion projects. Yeah. A lot of clients reference like these personal projects and say, oh, we like this and we want something similar for our projects. Yeah. And yeah, throughout the years, I realized that it's very important that, I not lose sight of that. Yeah. So this particular vehicle that you see, it's just an idea that I have, which is really just Singapore, but make it cute. Yeah. And really playing around with the idea of using my stationery obsession. Yeah. So I have another like vehicle coming up. Yeah, where it's like a trishaw. Yeah. So instead of the bicycle, it's a crayon. Yeah. So that one is still like maybe 50% done. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, before you said the trishaw, I was thinking, wow, it's so nice to have all these kind of like ice cream cart and things like trishaw made, because we are like slowly phasing out, right? So it's kind of you're prolonging their life, or like making them last longer, and like reminding people of like this nostalgic, the thing that kind of built up our childhood, but yet is slowly fading away.
And I guess to me, nice. It's like really just putting my own like unexpected and personal twist to it,
which is it's almost like the memory like got a bit like mixed up. Was it a crayon after all? Or oh, it's so cute though. It's so cool. Yeah, I would love to see. I mean, now I can finally, I think now that we are in this more modern age, that a lot of these things are phasing out, that it shows like how important it is for artists to kind of create works like that, even to commemorate and also be something that preserve this part of our past, right? Because things are really like phasing out,
especially
pretty
in
quickly.
Singapore. Our growth is very, very rapid. Yeah,
it's so rapid that like a few years back, we had a lot of like designs that were like nostalgic, like candy or nostalgic toys and all. But then now when you look back, it's actually, those are really nostalgic. Like they're probably gone. A lot of the things are gone. At that point, like maybe 10 years back, it was still, you can still see it once in a while, but actually a lot of things are without knowing. I don't know where they went.
In the blink of an eye, they have faded.
Right. So it's so nice. Like even ice cream cart. Luckily, where our studio is based, there's by the train station, there's still like a ice cream cart.
I think they still exist around the school facilities. I still see them around.
I really hope, but I really don't know how they can survive or make a living, because I went and I wanted to support the uncle, so I bought like an ice cream, the 3 flavor one, which is my favorite. It's $1.50. Yeah, so then it's like quite amazing to own
It's quite amazing that the cost for them has not, risen a bit more. I mean, 150 is still very, very low.
Very low for this,
for them to survive.
To have a vehicle, to own a vehicle and come here every day and like just to serve. And there's not a lot of people buying. So it's quite just wondering how it works. But I do hope that they would be more like they can survive and like be more visible in Singapore, because I think this is part of the culture, and it'll be fun even for like if tourists come, that this is part of our
and they recognize that this is part of our culture.
So this piece of work is actually very important. I feel like you're highlighting this very important part for us, with the nice colorful bread at the back. Yes. Wow. So do you feel like now, okay, so you're working on the trishaw next. That's your passion project. So you always have once in a while these little items that just comes up and you decide to.
Yeah. I mean, I would once in a while have passion projects. Sometimes it's purely because like I want to improve my craft. So 2 years ago, I had an exhibition at SAM. So that actually stemmed from a passion project that I started in like 2017, 2018. So at that time, I was very new to the art of paper sculpture, paper craft. And I wanted to improve. And so I started this project called 100 Days of like Paper. Yeah, so it was really essentially, as the name goes, where I tried to create one small paper sculpture every day. Yeah, if I could.
For 100
Yeah,
days.
yeah. So the whole point of that exercise was really for me to like hone my craft and to kind of work within like some limitations and boundaries that I set for myself. Yeah, it has to be this scale, it has to be on this platform. Yeah, and I would work from there.
And how do you decide on like the theme for each day? Like what to make?
Sometimes it's really just random ideas that I have. Yeah, but the things that don't change are the limitations, meaning the sizing of the matchbox that the artwork resides on. Yeah. But I could really just purely play with the entire shape itself. Yeah.
And the matchbox was part of that. It's just serves as a platform for your item?
Yeah,
or
so
was
initially it served
integrated?
as a platform, but over time I started to integrate it into the artwork. So
That's
if
so
you
cool.
open the matchbox, it could be a lake. I mean, there's like other things that I could do, with the matchbox itself.
So cool.
Yeah.
So the one that you exhibited, the collection that you exhibited in Singapore Art Museum, was it from 2017 or did you create a whole batch of 100 days of work?
So I created more pieces for the exhibition. Yeah, so some of the pieces that were displayed were very old pieces. Yeah, so I mean, to be frank, when I was, contemplating about displaying them, it was quite nerve-wracking because, I mean, I look at the works and I know that they are not like, I would say, like my standard now. Those were like in the exploration stage, right? Yeah, so the way the works were I mean, how it looks, how I approach it, it's very, very different. Yeah, but I guess, I mean, that was the whole point of the exhibition, right? To kind of show the progress, from start to, the end. Yeah.
Yes, that's so cool. That must be such a good like exhibition for yourself as well to see how much you've grown. So how many years of so it was last year. So how many years of kind of progress did it capture? Like how many years have you been running Lulo Paper Studio?
I think it's
2017.
I think it's maybe like 6 years ago, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very vague because like when I first started, getting client work, it wasn't like full swing into doing like paper art. Yeah. So it's the reason why I always feel very vague on like when did this all start.
So you feel that you're more like doing full-time?
Yeah. So
like
I mean,
6 years ago?
for I would say maybe around 6 years ago. Yeah, that's when it started. Yeah.
That's very like it's quite a good. It's not like, I mean, for the amount of work that you have done, that's actually a very good amount of years. I mean, it's not like it's quite good growth. I feel like, you have done so much, I feel like within this few years. Yeah. Do you feel like the COVID time in a way helped, like in the sense that you were home more often to kind of work on your craft? Did it affect you in any way during that few years?
Yeah, I guess during COVID, it was relatively quiet. Yeah, but I guess it was also a time for me to explore like different passion projects that I had in mind. Yeah, and playing around with colors that, I haven't really tried before. Yeah, so I guess every time there's like downtime for me, that's when, I use these pockets of time to really, work on projects that I'm interested in. Yeah.
Very exciting. Like I feel that there's still so much more that you have to offer and like you want to explore. Like I can imagine all the interesting concepts and exhibitions that you can come up with. So running Lulo Paper and Studio, do you face any challenges like making or even like the business side of things that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think there are definitely a whole string of challenges, from the business side to the personal side. I guess for the business side, it's really, when I first started, I would say it's really ironing out all the T and C's. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things I learned along the way as well. It's really looking out for like certain red flags in the client. Yeah, which sometimes I guess, when you're new to being like a freelancer, you kind of, not realize that, there are some things that you have to look out for. Yeah, such as, sometimes clients want you to like, create a sketch, like for free first before, they decide whether to hire you. Yeah. Or, unpaid pictures. Yeah. So things like that, yeah. I mean, along the way, I realized that, it's not sustainable to work in this way. Yeah, so I've adjusted a lot of my terms and conditions, throughout the years.
So how do you combat that? I mean, like not coming up with the sketch first. Like, how do you protect yourself as a freelancer?
So if clients are still quite adamant that they want a sketch first, I let them know that that's possible, but it comes with something that I call a Q fee, which I think some illustrators might be aware of, which is you sketch. And if the client doesn't really want that approach, they will still have to pay you still have to pay you a fee to cue the project. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, you can really just break down how you want this to be. It could be the Q fee is 20% of the project proposed budget. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a lot of steps, meaning like, let's say in the midst of the project, if you decide to queue the project, you might have to pay me 60 to 70% of the project budget. Yeah. Wow. So this ensures that my time is not wasted.
Yes. Yeah. So clever. I mean, such a good tip for a lot of our listeners as well. I think like, wow, who might be like doing freelance design work and all. It's also a good tip for myself actually.
So a lot of things along the way you learn, which is like usage rights. If they're using it in Singapore, are they using it for international purpose? Is this a one-off event? How many years is this advertisement going to last for?
Wow, you have to write that all in
so let's say
before.
If it's an advertisement, I would say, this is my usage fee for 2 years. If you want to continue this advertisement after 2 years, you have to come back to me and I'll charge you another usage fee. Yeah, so then as an artist, you know that, your artwork kind of has longevity in that sense. So even though the project might end, there is that potential that the client wants to use it after that 2-year mark. Yeah. And then you might still have a chance to earn money from that project.
Yes. Wow. That's very, very clever and good tip for us. So, but how do you like for example, a client who engage you to do this project, but then like, do you limit them to like where they can use it? Like, if they want to print it on a t-shirt, for example.
Yeah. So there's limitations in the usage terms as well. So there's like for print, for digital, for social media usage, if they want to use it for merchandise. So everything is like a different structured fee. Wow. Yeah. So I make sure I iron all these out before I come up with a budget. Yeah.
Wow. So like when you first started, do you have to like do your own research? How do you come up with the price, right? Like that's something that a lot of like craftspeople or like artists struggle with. I think it's the pricing. So how do you manage to like Google to see what other people are charging, or do you just like, okay, this is my price and things like that?
I would say along the way, I have, started to increase my rates. Yeah, of course, when clients came to me the first few times, I would say my rates were not like that high because, I mean, mainly it's a confidence issue because I have no like actual portfolio to show them. I have no kind of like proof of concept that, hey, I am someone they can trust. Yeah, so I would say at that point in time, I was charging, whatever I was charging then, yeah. And I guess I started to increase my rates when I realized how much time I actually put into it. Yeah. So let's say if, I tell myself, this project is going to take me a month, and I'm looking around at my friends, they're earning this much salary a month, I'm supposed to earn this much as well. Yes. Yeah. I don't compare myself to just like artists in the field. Yes. I compare myself to kind of like my peers and like how much they're earning. And I think to myself, okay, a full-timer is earning this much a month, I'm supposed to be earning this much a month as well.
Well done. Yeah, that is really good reference, I feel, because a lot of times we just like, if you look at just comparing to the rest of the freelancers, then maybe it's hard to find that. Yeah, but if you compare to like a full-timer, you're putting in that amount of hours.
But there are a lot of resources out there, I do want to say, available if you're a designer or illustrator to do like price comparisons. So there are sites but most of them are sites that are international. So they might not apply to the Singapore industry, but it's good for you to kind of use it to have a reference. Yeah. So some sites like Lightbox, I think it's called lightbox.co, LITE, and box, BOX. Yeah. You can actually key in certain things, like let's say you're doing a packaging box, you can key in, and basically these sites work. How it works is that artists from around the world actually come in anonymously to let you know like how much they were paid So let's say Hallmark pays this artist to do 8 greeting cards. So the artist would just, have that 8 greeting cards always paid $1,000 for one greeting card, for example. And then you can use that as your reference point.
That's very helpful. So like the creative community just come together to help each other out to share these information anonymously. Oh, that's good to know the like roughly how much you're supposed to, like, you're not going overboard or like under. Oh, I see. Wow, that's very good tip for all of us actually, like how to price, right? And do you ever ask, because one of the approach would be when people approach you is to ask, do you have a budget or something? Do you ever do it that way to find out the client's budget and then work around it?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah, so I think it depends on the project. If it's a project that it's relatively new to me, meaning I've actually haven't had much experience in pricing this type of projects, I would actually straight up just ask them if you have budget in mind. Yeah.
Do you feel that most clients already have a budget and usually...
Actually, no. I think in Singapore, it's still sometimes very hush-hush where they don't really want to tell you exactly their budget. They still want to see what what your pricing, what your quotation is like first. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes, how I determine the pricing is really, how are they going to use it? How long are they going to use it? What's the scale of the artwork? And like how much time am I given for this work?
Wow. And have you ever experienced like people negotiating like down?
All the time. Yeah. So I mean, I actually don't get like all the jobs that come to me all the time. Yeah. And sometimes it's because like, it's really pricing issues or timeline issues.
And you'll be like fine with that. Like you rather not kind of like bad, like, like
I mean, in the past, I do admit that, it will really like hurt my self-esteem. I'll be like, is it me, am I like, pricing too high? Or, am I so slow that, nobody wants to hire me? But I guess over the years, I realized that there's no point in not like honoring yourself, and there's no point in shortchanging yourself. Yeah. I mean, if the client is thinking about their business and I'm thinking about their business, then who is thinking about my business? So then I have to be, be thinking about, my own survival, right?
That's amazing. That's like the reason why you're successful, I think. Surviving, going strong. Yeah. Wow, that's very, very good to get that straight, right? Because I think a lot of people who run their own business or like artists, we tend to not value. But I think there are a lot of also very savvy people out there. But I feel that I tend to naturally like, not value like my own interests. I would be like, what the client wants and stuff like that. Just program that way, right? As designers, we're very into complimenting the client.
No, I think in a way it's okay to, want to, I mean, if the client negotiates and it's a little bit lower than my asking, I think it's okay. I think, it's part and parcel to negotiate, if you see this as a business. But of course, if they're lowballing you, then you like...
No, but you also have a very unique craft that I don't think they have a lot of other options, right? If they don't go with you, it's not like they can find another artist that does what you do, like that style.
I guess in that sense, but I mean, there's always alternatives for them in a way. They could use, toys
non-paper,
instead of non-paper things.
Okay.
Or they could use like 3D softwares to make something look a little bit more like 3D.
Look like paper. Like they can fabricate it.
Yeah, they can fabricate in that sense.
Okay, so but then it's the tactile part of your work that I guess cannot be achieved, right? But besides paper, do you have like interest in other mediums maybe to introduce into your work, or would you say that you will stick to paper for the time being?
But actually, I have a lot of interest in anything that's like craft related.
Really?
Yeah, before I was doing paper, I was doing a lot of craft related things. I was like sewing, I was, doing silk screening. So I mean, I think I'm just drawn to like mediums that require me to work with my two hands.
That's so nice. So if you had time, you might also go into different crafts and mediums like to add on to your work.
I mean, I think it's definitely a possibility.
I mean, this is just a small thing, but like putting your paper craft into like a little plastic bag is so cute, like a bread in a plastic bag. So like a different type of material, right? Like adds a kind of texture, a different texture in it. Yeah, it's very cool.
Definitely, I think like the medium is not the one stopping me. I
it's
think
a
at the end
time.
of the day, sometimes it's a time, and also at the end of the day, it's, even if you hop to another medium, I still believe that your own personal creative vision will still be there.
Yeah,
like
true.
no one can really take that away from
That's the
you.
main core part of your work, right? Yeah, like it's not like, oh, just paper, but even if I give you a 3D printer, you probably, I mean, like your essence with your work will still be there. Oh, that's very nice. I think. Yeah, so towards the end of our podcast, usually we will ask our guests this question. If you were to go to like a deserted island, let's say everything else is taken care of, survival stuff, but if you can bring like only one craft with you that you love, that you can't live without, kind of, what would that be? Yeah.
Oh, that is a very tough question. I don't really know if I'm on a deserted island, if I want to bring a craft with me. I mean, I think I would actually bring a bunch of books.
Rather
like
books.
Maybe like survival books on like how to detect whether this is a medicinal plant or whether this fish is going to kill me if I eat it, or like how do I create rope out of twine, things like that.
Like a survival handbook.
Survival handbook, I mean, after all, knowledge is power. So I guess, I'll be able to have this book so that, I will, be a good like lady of the wilderness. I don't really need to depend on anyone. Assuming I'm there alone by myself.
And that book can teach you how to do
all,
other crafts.
I guess I'm quite crafty. So, any craft would do. And I guess at the end of the day, I'll be able to survive this way.
Oh, okay. So books is one of your interests as well. Do you read a lot?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, did you like
very
to?
Big reader.
Oh, wow. That's why when you were talking about like all the potential, like all the future exhibitions and work that you want to work on, I also envision like you can definitely do something with books, right? Like a book, like a world, like I don't know, like every book has. You just create the world for that book, and then
I did have that.
Did you have that before?
When I was working on my passion project with 100 Days of Paper, one of the works was like Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah,
so it's like a 3D cover.
Wow.
So I mean, working in the book realm, I think that's quite fun. I don't
like storybooks.
Coming up with like those interactive, movable children's books.
Have you tried?
Yes.
You have tried making them? Yes, I was just thinking this would be perfect. Like things that you can pull out.
Like popping out. Things that move, that swivel.
Wow. So you have to like experiment because those mechanisms can be quite difficult to produce, right? Like, how do you... Like you have to make sure that when you open then it moves upwards.
It's really essentially the folds. How you fold
so
it.
you have to kind of experiment. There's no way of really...
I mean, there are books out there that teach simple like folding pop-ups. So from there you can kind of experiment.
Because it's not like, even when you draw on your like 3D software, make it up and all, there's still that mechanism that requires your own engineering, right? That's a very, but I would love to see a pop-up book or something by you. Or maybe a giant size one.
That would be fun.
Can we please, please hope to
I
see
think that
all
would be
that.
fun.
I can really imagine it in a kids' finale or like in the museum, right? We should really have fun stuff like this for the kids.
Cross my fingers in the next few years.
Yes, I would love to see your work in an interactive form and for kids and everyone else to experience. Especially kids, I guess, because it's like so much imagination, like so much, like joy in this whole world. That, I really hope that, to see a life-size pop-up book.
to bring you guys into my world.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your work and sharing with us, all these beautiful stories about your journey. And look forward to seeing your work in the museum very soon. Your passion projects. So thank you so much for joining us today, Cheryl.
Welcome. Thank you for having
me. Yes. Thank you all for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube podcast, and the full video of this recording would be available on our Patreon. See you there. Bye.